Up, everybody? Coming at you here from Atitlan Organics. I'm actually at the Bamboo Guest House where people uh, come to do trainings, come to do retreats, things like that. I just wanted to come back at you guys a little philosophical today. I'm reading actually Braiding Sweetgrass. It's a great book, about a third of the way through, and she's telling this story about how she's kind of reclaiming an old abandoned farm pond. Okay, so there's this pond that basically got eutrophied. It got over like inundated with nutrients. So there's tons of phosphorus and nitrogen and all this stuff, and that encourages the growth of algae and all kinds of like water molecules in this pond. And then basically all these nutrients are encouraging basically like a sludge in the pond. And so she's telling this story in the book Braiding Sweetgrass about how she wants a clean pond. She wants to be able to swim in it and let her daughters swim in it. She wants to have a pond that she can kind of see the bottom and it's not mucky and it's not gross. And she's an ecologist, and so she has some other desires around like what species would be there. But basically, she has to assert her preference on this pond. And so she's telling the story that as she pulls up this muck, these weeds, the algae in the bottom of the pond in order to make it more swimmable. Hello, Adrik. Yeah, in order to pull up all this stuff, basically she starts to see like tadpoles, and then she sees beetles, and she sees little fish and all this stuff. And basically she has this sort of moral dilemma. And I think this moral dilemma really is alive every time we go in the garden, whenever we go in the garden. And so that's what I want to talk about for a little longer. So she's basically saying, well, should I kill these tadpoles? You know, by me taking them out in the muck and turning them into compost, should I kill those tadpoles? Is that okay? Later, she tells us she's clearing like the banks of the pond. Pruning trees helps them take up more nutrients. When you cut trees back or any plants, they regrow. The regrowth needs a lot of nutrients. So basically, it's like, okay, she's pruning these trees to suck up nutrients out of the pond, which is all cool. But as she was pruning the trees, she sees a bird's nest and there's a couple eggs inside, and the mom is like alarmed. Oh my gosh, this woman's gonna cut my nest down. She basically says, hey, like, in the process of making my home fit for my children and the species of plants and animals that I want to work with, I'm actually like destroying the homes of other things, and there's a moral question there. I want to take it from here now. So that inspired me to something I always think about. It's like, I always, I used to like poke a little bit to the vegans or the vegetarians. I say like, hey, like you eat some broccoli or you eat some corn or wheat or some nuts or something. But like, even just to grow that plant, you had to like destroy a little ecosystem that was there. Okay, there's a meadow, there's some rabbits, there's some birds, there's some earthworms, and you're going to turn that soil to grow broccoli. Like, even as a vegan or a vegetarian, that's totally cool. You still have to inevitably disturb ecosystems in order to feed yourself. It's really difficult, impossible to not like destroy ecosystems not destroy, but disturb in the process of feeding yourself. And this is a reality that permaculture just embraces. It just says, okay, like that's fine. That has to happen. How can we guide it? How can it be so that we destroy the minimal amount or restore or guide it to be better than when we left it? And so every time I start a garden, like literally yesterday, I'm working in my garden. I have this enormous fennel plant, like a big fennel plant, and my son likes to eat the seeds, and it's a nice plant, and I have a bunch of seed that I could plant. But like, I know I need to cut that down. Like, I don't want that fennel plant where it's growing and it's all big and it takes up all this space. It's like I eventually just cut it down. Like, all right, I'm going to save some seeds, plant some new seeds, put that fennel plants where I want them. But this preference that I'm saying, I do not want fennel here, I want vegetables here, and in this area I want this here and not that. And so what I think is so fascinating about permaculture is that really it's a dance. It's like, instead of, I think the dominant Western culture is basically like, ignore the ecosystem. The ecosystem is just a collateral, and we're going to make what we need to make and do what we need to do, and everything else is just secondary. And that's not what we want to do. But permaculture is also different than environmentalism and conservationism, which basically says no humans allowed at all. Like, I don't like that idea either of humans not being allowed in the landscape either, right? So So basically, it's like permaculture is the dance. It's like, yes, I need to eat. Yes, I need a garden. Yes, I need to build a house. But how do I do it in a way that leaves the ecosystem around me actually better off? Because that's a possibility too. And I think what we usually have is two options: either destroy the planet and don't care about it, or not interact with the planet, and that way you just don't destroy it. But neither of those are satisfying. So permaculture really is like, hey, you're an actor in this too. You will have to decide if you want a clean pond or a mucky pond. And if you want a mucky pond, if you want a clean pond, you may make a small mucky pond nearby. You may recreate the habitat somewhere else. You may division it off. You may play around with the dance. But there is a dance. How do we impose our desires and our needs, blending them into the landscape without dominating it, without destroying it? So yeah, permaculture gives us the tools to do that in an effective way. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just to sum it up again, if you have to cut down a tree to make a garden, is that okay? And how can you respond to that situation? And like, if it's, what kind of tree is it? How old is the tree? Will you actually take care of your garden? Is there a place you can put your garden where you don't have to cut down a really old tree? So going through this process, but I'm curious, what are people's thoughts on, where are the ethical limitations for gardeners? What should we be allowed to do ethically when we interact with the ecosystem, and what not? Like, if I dig up grass and make a garden, a lot of the permaculture community is going to cheer for me and be like, yeah, you killed that grass, why is grass any less important? Is my particular interest or my particular desire. So we have to understand, no matter what, we're bringing a desire. We have to make sure that that's what we really do want, and how do we blend it in with what everything else wants. And that's the difference between dominating and also no interaction, is to have this balance and this dance. So if that interests you, let us know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't. We'll be dropping new videos, and we have some awesome online trainings now, permaculture online trainings. So I'll put that link right down in the comment. And yeah, no worries. The world is resilient. That's a great comment from Adrik Apoy. I hope I said that right. Don't worry. The world is resilient. And at the end of the day, that's how I feel. You have to make small changes to support yourself. You want to do it holistically, and you want to never forget the genius and the power and the wisdom that the earth has, and that will really help it. So check out the link, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys soon. Much love.